Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today we're taking a look at a bunch of different cards that are trending on the market because their archetypes are receiving new support in the OCG. We are in the middle of a bunch of different reveals from Duelist Nexus, the core set coming after Cyberstorm Access, and it looks like a really cool one, bringing with it a bunch of support for different older archetypes, a lot like how Darkwind Blast was. Hopefully it'll help to bring some changes and help some of these lesser known strategies see a bit of a shakeup, and maybe even help them become a bit more playable or meta relevant. Of course, these new cards are making the cards that already exist go up in price because people who were maybe fans of the archetype before now want to go ahead and pick everything up, which is eating quantities off of the market and driving prices up. Let's get started. First up, let's take a look at one of my favorite underdeveloped archetypes, the Unchained. So the Unchained archetype has a lot of really cool cards that basically revolve around popping your own cards and then triggering their effects. They also let you link summon with your opponent's monsters, which is a really neat form of interruption that can be really difficult to play around. Now, up until now, the deck hasn't seen any competitive success at all, really. I think that at times they've made a decent engine, and maybe there are some players that have tried to work some things out with like Scraps or Fire Kings, but overall the deck just has been pretty underwhelming. But now the deck gets a few new tools in the form of a couple of main deck monsters and a new Link 2, which honestly look really cool. I think the artwork for the archetype is really amazing. Anyways, Unchained Soul of Rage is the card we're looking at as one of the best cards from the theme. It's a Link 2 that you have to use at least one Unchained monster to make. It has a quick effect that lets you synchro summon a dark monster using one of your opponent's monsters that was special summoned, which is pretty awesome. And also, if it is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add any other fiend monster from your graveyard back to your hand. Really neat thing here, I don't know about like what they'll play with the new support now that there's another Link 2, but I remember seeing some lists that tried to play Unchained before running 2 to 3 copies of this card. It's the original secret rare that has jumped the most in terms of price. They used to only be a couple of dollars, but now they're up to $7 to $8 a piece. The card also has a Megatin ultra rare reprint that is only $1 or $2, but honestly the secret rares look so much nicer than the ultras. Still though, the ultras aren't a bad buy if you just want to have an Unchained core on hand just in case, since because of the Megatin reprints, the entire deck core is actually relatively cheap overall. Up next is a really cool one. We're looking at Ursarctic Polari. So overall, I think the Ursarctic archetype is really bad. Like honestly, it might be one of the worst archetypes that has ever been created. However, it seems like Konami is trying to make the archetype a little bit better as they give the deck a really solid new main deck monster and a new synchro option. Polari is one of the key extra deck options for the Ursarctic theme. It lets you search for the field spell for free, and it also lets you tribute a level 7 or higher monster to either add it back to your hand or summon another Ursarctic monster from your graveyard. I believe that this is one of the main extra deck options that you want to go into early on with this strategy, since the field spell is actually pretty decent. Overall though, I don't think Ursarctics are really gonna do anything at all, even with the new support. However, I think people might be fans of the archetype and just want to try it out. So we've seen a bit of movement in the price of Polari. The collector's rare version of the card looks really good. I think I actually bought one just because of how adorable this card is. For the ultras, you're looking at paying around $8 for it now, up from the $3 or so that it was at before. And then with the collector's rare, they were down at like 20 to 25-ish. They're a high rarity that's hard to find copies of, so they're now up to between $40 and $45 a piece. Overall, this card is definitely not a buy. If you happen to still have them from when Ancient Guardians first came out, now might be your time to move the Ursarctic cards while there's a tiny bit of demand for them. Next up, I know we're going backwards a little bit, but Heritage of the Chalice is probably a card I should have mentioned in the previous Market Watch. With the new In for Noble Knight support that we're getting in Duelist Nexus, Heritage of the Chalice is a card that will almost certainly see play in the deck. It's basically just a searcher for any Noble Knight monster or Noble Arms card. Because the In for Noble Knight stuff is all In for Noble Knights or In for Noble Arms, they're still valid search targets, and this can basically search for anything in the strategy. That definitely makes the card worth noting. Even if the archetype isn't that good from a competitive standpoint, searchers are generally played as 3-ofs in their respective strategies, so anyone wanting to try out the new cards will probably need 3 copies of this one. Because of that, we've seen both versions of the card surge up in price. Now historically, either copy of this card has been around $3, but we've seen the original ultra rares up at $7 to $8, and then the Megaton secret rares up at around $10. Admittedly, the secret rares do look nicer, but the ultras are the original printing of the card, and they will actually match other cards from the deck like Charles, Renault, and Durandal, so it's really up to you guys on which printing you want to go with. Of all the cards from the theme, if one card had to be reprinted in an OTS tournament pack, close to the release of Duelist Nexus, I would think that it's this card, so maybe it's a good idea to sell into the hype now, but of course it's never a guarantee that anything will ever get reprinted, and if Heritage doesn't see a reprint while the Infernoble Knights are still good, this card has the potential to go up even further than it already has. One other archetype that just got some support revealed is the Evil archetype, consisting of Evil Swords and Evil Tile monsters. So basically the Evil Tiles are reptiles and the Evil Swords are dinosaurs, and the deck basically revolves around turning the Evil Tiles into Evil Swords, as if the lizards were evolving into dinosaurs. A really cool idea, but unlike the duality of the pilots and spaceships from the Cosmo archetype, the synergy for this archetype just never really feels there, and the archetype I don't think has ever really done anything. Of course, Dolka and Yugioh were iconic monsters for their role in Dino Rabbit format, but the main deck monsters were never really anything to write home about. The new Evil support hopes to change that, and to be fair, the new main deck monsters do seem much better than the previous ones, and the new Rank 6 might actually be a decent generic Rank 6 option. The deck probably still won't be good, but that hasn't stopped people from targeting Evo Force for a buyout. Evo Force is kind of like a test tiger for the archetype, letting you tribute an evil tile and summoning an evil sword from your deck as if it were summoned by the effect of an evil tile, giving it its bonus effect. This is still kind of cool, I guess, but with how unplayable the evil archetype probably still is, it's kind of weird as to why anyone would waste their time with buying this card out. However, Evo Force has just one printing from back in Order of Chaos as a super rare, and with that, the cheapest near mint copy on TCG Player right now is a whole $15, which is definitely way too much for this card. Realistically, this card will probably be reprinted within the next couple of reprint sets, so it's probably something you guys should be offloading before that reprint tanks its value. Moving on to a few other cards that are currently trending, Snowdrop the Rica Fairy is a key one for the Rica Sun Avalon strategy. It lets you tribute a plant monster to summon itself and another plant monster out of your hand, and it turns all of your plant monsters into the same level as one plant that you already control. Not a bad card, but I think it is just a one-of that you search for in the Rica Sun Avalon combo. However, while Glamour and Teardrop and Petal were all reprinted in Maze of Memories, Snowdrop was not, and it was actually short printed relative to other super rares from Secret Slayers. Because of this, Snowdrop has shot way up in price, going from $3 or $4 before to now being a $20 card, though I think that at one point this card was up at like $30 each. I don't think that this should be a surprise to anyone. When we saw the reprints to Glamour and Teardrop, after we saw Jasmine go up in price, it was obvious that other hard to find monsters for the deck would go up as a direct result. This one is frustrating because we have no idea when the card will eventually get reprinted. Hopefully it's included in an upcoming OTS tournament pack so that fans of the archetypes can finally build the deck for a relatively cheap price. Okay, so this one is pretty unexpected, but Illusion of Chaos is once again trending. It has been a little while since we've actually seen this card being used. I think that some people played this and Magician's Souls with the Adventurer package before to turn Draco back and Fateful Adventure into additional resources, but the whole Illusion of Chaos and Magician's Souls package hasn't seen play for quite a while. Now, however, I believe that the idea is that the Runic archetype makes use of Magician's Souls as a way to accelerate through more cards and get some Runic spells into the graveyard. Specifically, you're dumping cards that you can't activate during your first turn when you're going first to draw into more useful cards, and then that also gives you more fodder to put back into the deck with Runic Fountain as well. Now, I don't know exactly how good that strategy is. I haven't really seen too many lists that have incorporated this strategy, but I think the idea sounds kind of solid in theory. Anyways, this card has just the one printing from Battle of Chaos, but it is expected to be reprinted in the 2023 Megatons. However, it is kind of weird how a card that was relatively unproven has gone from being around $25 a few months ago to now literally doubling and becoming a $50 card seemingly out of nowhere. This was really unexpected to see. Even though the engine might actually be good, I would not want to dump too much money into something that is unproven and that I am not necessarily going to play. So if you don't need your set of Illusion of Chaos, now is a really solid time to dump them while the price is quite inflated. Alright, the final card that we're looking at for today is Red Eye's Insight. So I think that we have looked into this card before. This is a card that's primarily used specifically in decks that want to turbo out Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, obviously aside from like a pure Red Eyes deck. The idea is that you want to run 3 copies of this and 1 additional brick Red Eyes card so that you can essentially play 6 copies of Red Eyes Fusion, essentially guaranteeing you that you'll be able to see Red Eye's Dark Dragoon on your opening turn. Now, I think that the last time that this card saw competitive play was back when Sub-Terrors were a big thing, though I can't remember if they actually did well, or if it was just like occasionally topping some regionals here and there. Well, now it's Labyrinth as a trap deck that some people are trying to add this strategy into, which actually seems to fit together pretty well in theory. It is a bit gimmicky though, so I don't think we'll be seeing this strategy top any huge events or anything like that. However, Red Eye's Insight just has 2 different printings, a common and rare version, and each of those printings is going to cost you around $8 to $9 right now, a decent chunk of change for a card that doesn't even have a holo printing yet. If you guys opened Invasion Vengeance or Legendary Duelist Season 1, this is a card that might be lying around in your bulk that is absolutely worth digging up and offloading. Okay guys, that is it for today's episode. A couple of interesting things happening this time. We didn't have too much movement caused by the YCS over this past weekend. I thought we'd see some bigger like Sprite buyouts or maybe something Salamangreat related, but I suppose not. Those decks are kind of fleshed out already. Anyways, if you guys did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards that we talked about today and what other cards are trending on the market so I can cover them in future episodes as well. Also, make sure that if you haven't already, do hit that subscribe button for us. We do appreciate it and it helps us out a ton. And until next time, guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.